what do you say we move on to a comedian that we actually really do like, Theo Von?
Yeah.
So Theo Von had a what is she? A neuro something neuro of some sort. Hold on. I think it was a neuroscientist of some sort. Hold on, let me just look it up real quick.
You had him on the show?
Yeah. And I mean, it's not really relevant for this segment who she is, but in case you guys are interested, her name is Dr. Tara Swart, and she's a neuroscientist and former psychiatric doctor. So he sat down with her, and he was discussing his porn and masturbation habits or addictions, whatever you want to call it, and shares that he hasn't done it in quite a while. And he also talks about like how makes him feel and why he quit those things. I probably have to beep a lot of this portion of the show during editing. But let's take a look at the clip and discuss.
Okay, I'm here.
All right.
Hey.
Hey. Theovani. All right.
Intimacy's kind of like I don't know, for a lot of guys, it got replaced by pornography too. I think really damaged it, especially for me. Once I found pornography, there was a way to have a connection with a woman that was safe enough for me to be in.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to be hurt.
Yeah.
There was some sexual reward to it.
Yeah.
And I could start it and stop it as I wished. And it was the only kind of relationship I could even really handle of when I was in other relationships, but none of them were as long as my relationship with pornography, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And right now I'm I think I'm 77 days off of pornography and 70 days off of masturbation. So I've had sexual activities, but I haven't been touching my wiener or whatever. People that say different stuff, saying I don't know what they say in your country, topping off the
wanking.
Okay. Wanking. Yeah. Thinking of the queen or whatever they say, I don't know what they say. Queen.
Listen, this lady's laughing a little bit too hard for my taste. Anyway, let's continue. Doesn't she know there's already someone out there for Theo? Okay, hold on. We're not done. Hold on. Okay. I just have to say that.
Go.
Queen take a book or whatever. That's like a chess move. But yeah. So that's been kind of different, For me, that's been different. But that was a huge thing.
How is it different?
Well, for one, I quit thinking about it. It's I don't think about pornography. I don't think about masturbation. I don't have that weird feeling where I'll masturbate and then I'll just be laying there I'm still right where I was, but I've kind of ejaculated or whatever. Because sometimes semen, or some people call it what, I don't know what people call it or whatever, party sauce or whatever. I don't even know what people call it, on the street or whatever. But I feel like the more I keep it in my body, the more masculine I feel, right? And the more of myself I feel, as opposed to just having a leak of it constantly. It was kind of almost had a leak of my masculinity. And I would cause the leak, but the leak would happen. And it was just like a dripping pipe. It was you look at a dripping pipe, you're but you look at a pipe that's not dripping, you're hey, this is some pretty good construction.
I like that.
Here.
I love that phrase, leak of my masculinity.
So that's kind of what it felt like, now that I really think about it. And then I start to look at women a little bit. I don't think of it just so much in I've always thought of women in more than just a sexual sense, but the sexual part isn't as strong. It's not let me just think about sex. It's given me a little bit more space in myself to be well, let me think about who this person is, and do I really want to engage with them? It starts to give a little bit more value to sex for me, and by that happening, intimacy is kind of created because, for one, I have a little more intimacy with myself, right? It's I respect my intimacy a little bit more. I'm not just masturbating. I'm not just tossing my intimacy off to some person through a screen or something that doesn't really mean anything to me.
Yeah.
And so I think those are some feelings in my head that start to to happen, and I start to feel a little bit more, I don't know if it's integrity, but it is a little bit more sense of intimacy with myself.
That's lovely. So one of the reasons that people resort to things like that, particularly after a breakup, is that the brain circuitry that is to do with unrequited love is relieved by certain activities because they cause the same kind of chemical cocktail. And those activities are things like alcohol, cocaine, pornography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, right? This is why people
Go
will
to those
indulge in
things.
those. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously they're addictive. So then it becomes something that you need to do more of to get the same reward.
Right. And that becomes your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then it's like, well, yeah, of course, other relationships are going to be different because I don't even realize the relationships that I put in front of.
And the other thing is that
human
pornography creates such an unrealistic, idealized version of what a woman should look like and what she should be prepared to do in an intimate relationship, or even not in an intimate relationship, you know, like in a one-night stand or very early in dating. That's very damaging to male and female relationships as well. That, you know, the expectation that you will naturally have if you've been looking at that every day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And to not have it in my brain, and it starts to my imagination starts to start up again.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's one thing that's disappeared over the years, I feel like, is our imagination, because we have access at anything you want to see. You want to see two gay guys attack a squirrel or whatever in a marina or whatever. You can, but you can Google it right now and you'll find it. Like anything you want to find out there, you can. It's like we don't need our imagination. We used to have to imagine things, you know? And so that, like, now my imagination starts to start up again, you know, because yeah, I'm not attaching porn to women I meet now, you know. And there, yeah, right there, squirrel attacks twink right there. That is, yeah, and I don't know. And that might have been the rebuttal. Who knows where the first attack started, but yeah, so that's something that's been really neat just on this recently that I've been doing. And really seeing some reward from it. And you know what's so crazy? For years I tried like different like blockers on computers and stuff. And I got started with this kind of recovery coach, and he just said, why don't you text me at night? And he said, tell me something that felt good during your days. Tell me something you felt like maybe you could have done a little bit differently. And then tell me how long you've been off of porn and how long you've been off of masturbation. That's, for some reason, that's all it took. And it's just been so easy.
Well, it's accountability.
Maybe that's it. It's like accountability with somebody that I trust, or that I trust. And
that you respect, because you'll feel like you've let them down if you can't send those messages.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's funny. I didn't feel that as much, but I did. I just felt, I was shocked at how easy it started to help me, you know?
So, wow. I mean, I love Theo Vaughn for being courageous. And
she was laughing a little hard, huh?
What was that?
She was laughing a little bit.
Well,
too
I think
hard.
she was probably a little nervous because she has this like clearly masculine American dude.
No, she's like.
No. She was definitely laughing. Yeah, and oh my God, there's so many things that people could call masturbation. Anyway, but I like what Theo said, but she said something that I don't agree with, and she said, sometimes it's unrealistic what you think women should look like. Well, that's assuming that you're doing like voyeur web, which is like, I know guys who are into porn and they're into like tall, like athletic blonde chicks. It's like, oh my God, dude, you talk about no imagination. So there are probably porn things that are more realistic and stuff, because people have all kinds of ideas about what they want to see. But ultimately, when she said, the cocaine and the like, I think that's all true. I just think it's another way. I feel this. Let me get a quick bump of circuitry. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just like drinking scotch or, overspending, or like all of the things that people have 12-step programs for. It's all the same chemical response when you do those things, if it's your fix. Does that make sense?
It does. And, we've talked about this before, but you and I, we're buddies from a 12-step program. That's how we met. So, that's partly also why I can really like connect to, what Theo Vaughn says. And I have a sponsor right now because I'm a caffeine addict. Well, I've had troubles with caffeine, and so I'm in CAFA. It's Caffeine Addicts Anonymous, and so I have a sponsor that I send a message to every morning, and I say, "Hey, today I commit to staying sober from caffeine." And today is actually day 30. It's been a month.
How you feeling?
Honestly, I do get cravings sometimes, but for the most part, it's wonderful. I don't have anxiety. I don't have all this fear. I'm not stressed all the time. I have a sense of, and I'm getting so much more work done. Once I got past that like initial hump,
Mm-hmm.
it's just really clear to me now that caffeine is like, it doesn't actually give you energy. It gives you like a false sense of energy, because caffeine really just stresses you out. So, when you consume it, you get very agitated, and you feel like that you're moving and doing things, and and to a certain extent you are, but you would have done the same things without having the after effect of caffeine, which then gives you a lot of anxiety after. But I would like to say this. I do agree with the accountability, but and I agree with what she said. For me, it's someone that I respect, that I have this contact with every day, so that helps. But specifically, Theo Vaughn said something that really stood out to me, and when he said that he feels like his manhood or mandom or whatever is leaking,
Mm-hmm.
I can actually really relate to that, because I've also given up masturbation. It hasn't been quite as long as it's been for Theo. I think he said he was on day 77. For me, it's probably been a week or so. And partly the reason why I stopped is because I felt what he described in that clip. I felt like I was like leaking my womanhood somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, because when you masturbate, you have images in your head, through the process and so on. I almost felt like, I don't know, this is like a spiritual thing, and I don't even know how to describe it, but it almost felt like I was like spiritually opening myself up to like something harmful, because it's you have these images, and then you like, okay, so for instance, like before, I used to like, sometimes I used to imagine my ex when I used to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
After, and it's not someone that I wish to be with. It's not someone that I desire, but it was just sort of like, it's the last person I was with. So that's the mental image that I would have when I would masturbate.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't watch porn. I never did. I don't get it. I think for me, it's just kind of gross, but to watch. So I would think of my ex, and when I was done, I would feel this, like, I felt like he had me,
Mm-hmm.
like, because you're simulating the act, and
That's interesting.
your body and your mind and your spirit is kind of going through the motions, even though there's not a physical person there. The imagination alone. So I almost felt like I was still sleeping with him,
Mm-hmm.
and it was making it hard for me to get over him, because I was like, why am I thinking about this person? I don't even like him. I don't even want to be with him.
Right.
And honestly, just in this week that I haven't, engaged, it's just like,
Can I just start laughing like overly excitedly like that woman did? I'm just kidding.
Theo.
Ha 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 ha. Ha ha, they call it a wank. They call it a wank.
was
The
like-
Americans, the baseball players say they belted one over the fence. Anyway, Charlie Good.
I've seen many women on his podcast do that, obviously, because he's that guy. You know what I mean? He's like cute.
Look, that guy. He reminds me a little bit of, and this is a controversial guy. We're not getting too into this, but Mike Tyson has that thing too, where he's so honest about what he's thinking that people just get like freaked out.
Are you comparing Theo Vaughn to Mike Tyson? I don't get it. What?
Mike Tyson's brilliant. I mean, his mind is brilliant.
Women, I feel like women would be intimidated by Mike Tyson.
Oh no, totally, no, totally. But look, his past. I mean, he was convicted, sketchy. I think he was railroaded as a black man. But I mean, not me as a black man. Him as a black man. Me as a black man. I'm just kidding.
Dance.